the Niners were such a dominant team last year. I think that kind of hit our confidence maybe a little bit. I feel like we have a lot of confidence this year. We believe in ourselves. Offensively, we're just a much better team than we were. We're a much more efficient team. We're playing with a lot more confidence.
They are a better team. They led the league in points per game this season. They were 15th in 2019, and they were 5th in yards per game this season. They were 18th in 2019. Rodgers had the second highest completion percentage of his career and the most touchdown passes of his career this season. So their offense is definitely better.
Were we better our second year together or our first?
Our second year.
Yeah, so let's be fair to Aaron Rodgers. If you get a new system, Brady's probably, now his age is a factor, but he'll probably be better next year. I mean, you look at Brady in December is better than Brady in September. So, like, in fairness, it takes almost everybody a year in a system so that you don't, like, if you look at Kyle Shanahan and Matt Ryan, I think it was year 2 that it was incredible. Just takes time, so you don't have to think about plays. They're just like muscle memory.
I also think that that's the reason why they're better, not because they drafted Jordan Love.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I'm not giving Jordan Love
anything
a lot of credit
with Jordan Love. Yes. Yeah. And that's no disrespect to Jordan Love. It's just that Aaron Rodgers was great, and now he's in the same system for another year, and everyone's a little bit better, and everyone's a little bit more comfortable. And they were a great team last year. They just needed to get a little more physical. Like, they're better. That's what it is. It has nothing to do with him needing motivation from Jordan Love. By the way, he's also going to be a guest host on Jeopardy, which he revealed yesterday. And he was a contestant in 2015 and said that Alex Trebek was one of his idols growing up. So that, like, took the internet by storm.
People loved Alex Trebek.
I mean, an unbelievable television legend.
Beloved.
So Lamar Jackson has accomplished a lot, but one thing he's never done is play in the snow. Texas got hit with a lot of snow this past week. There's a 40% chance of snow, up to an inch on Saturday night in Buffalo, and he has admitted he's a little concerned.
Zero experience. I never got to play in the snow, except my first time seeing snow in Louisville, but we had a snowball fight, so that's totally different from playing in it. But, yeah, that definitely would be my first time playing football in the snow.
Let me tell you something.
If it does, hopefully it don't.
By the way, you think he's fast? You think he makes you lose your footing on grass? The advantage is to Lamar, as long as you don't get wind.
Yeah.
If you just get snow, if it's just slippery,
listen,
he's going to go crazy.
Buffalo is a very cold. I mean, we're showing some video of it now. That's a place that gets next level cold. It's like Lambeau. Like, it gets really cold. Now, an inch is not that dramatic.
Yeah.
But his press conferences are so great. He's so hilarious. He has such a good energy to him, just all around the game. Like, I find him on the field, in the press conferences.
I find him really easy to root for.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, we had the Kyrie Irving story. Some guys are hard to root for. Even if you think they're great, you're like, it's hard to root for him. Lamar's easy to root for.
He's so fun.
Justin Herbert with his little boy haircut. Some guys you're like, I want that guy to do well.
Yeah.
I like it. Enjoy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
Watson or Watsoff? Where does he fit? We'll put the uniforms on. You tell us. The look right, the aesthetic, the optics, the fit for Deshaun Watson, who wants out. It's a new year. That usually means one thing: New Year's resolutions. It's always hard to keep your resolutions. Here's one resolution that's easy to keep. You'll be glad you kept it. Get LifeLock identity theft protection. 1 out of every 5 Americans are affected by identity theft. It can ruin your life temporarily. This year, you can't just monitor your bank statements or your credit card. Got to do more than that. LifeLock domestic agents alert you if they feel anything is suspicious. I've used it. That's the one New Year's resolution you should keep. And you can save up to 25%, a quarter, 25% off your first year. Up to that. But you got to go to LifeLock.com and you got to put in the code HERD, H-E-R-D. You don't want your social security number ending up on the dark web. Like Dolphin players question the coaching staff's loyalty to Tua. Now, years ago, Brian, obviously you would give a young quarterback at least a year and a half of assessing him before you really made judgments. But, Brian, over the last 15 years, the high school quarterback industry has exploded. These kids have 10,000 snaps by the time they're 12 years old. Tua's got 9 games, 600 snaps, 300 passes. Can you see them with a number 3 pick saying, we got enough footage? We're not into him. I mean, what would you do if you read in the Miami Herald today and you coach the Dolphins? A lot of these veteran players are like, he's not nearly as good as Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Well, that's got to be a concern, and you wonder where that's coming from. But clearly, job one for them, and it was a unique situation for them because they had to do it while they were trying to make a playoff run. Typically, when your young quarterback comes in, your first-round pick, you have the second half of the season, get him some seasoning, you're playing for next year. That's all good, well and good, and it really doesn't matter. If he throws an interception, who cares? We're just going to lose another game. We weren't going to go to the playoffs anyway. But Miami had to walk that walk where, we're still kind of a playoff team. I thought they did a pretty good job with it, brought Fitzpatrick in when they needed to. They clearly have enough to know whether Tua is the guy or not. Plus, they're sitting there with the 3rd overall pick. That's some pretty good collateral, either to get one or get trade in and get some more. So if they can convince themselves that Tua is the guy, they got some capital there at the number 3 pick where they can really parlay that into something else. But the bottom line question is, do they think he is the guy going long term, or is one of these other guys maybe more attractive to them?
So the Browns go in as a 10-point underdog to well-rested Kansas City. Obviously, if you're a 10-point favorite, you have better personnel. That's largely understood. But go back to your career, Brian. Did you ever go in as a significant underdog, and did it work? And did you play that to your advantage? Did you let it be known among players? Did you talk a lot about it, like Cleveland Space this week?
Oh, sure. You get that chip on your shoulder, us against the world. Nobody believes in us. You hear that all the time, whether it's legitimate or not. And even if it's not true, you make it up as a coach and try to get your team to believe it, just to try to get that edge. Cleveland, clearly because they're the newbie to it and they're playing the reigning Super Bowl champ, are they capable of beating Kansas City? Yes. Do they have an offense that can be explosive at times? Baker Mayfield can be efficient if he doesn't turn it over. They've got a really solid running game, and the defense is solid. So can they beat Kansas City? Yes, but the number of things they've got to do, not give up the big play, rally up and tackle and minimize the yards after the catch, run the ball, keep time of possession, get in the red zone, score touchdowns, not field goals. Can they do that? Yes. But the hard part, when you play Kansas City, you got to do it all. You can't do 3 out of the 5. You can't do 4 out of the 5. You got to do all 5, or Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City is going to beat you. So are they capable of doing it? Sure they are. They've got the talent. Will they do it? It's a tall order.
So I remember Jimmy Johnson talking to me once about, at the end of Dan Marino's career, you get into kind of uncomfortable conversations with rich, iconic. Miami was Dan Marino's town. And Big Ben kind of runs Pittsburgh. And if I'm Mike Tomlin, after what I saw at the second half of the year, I think it's time to have one of those uncomfortable conversations with Ben about how hard is he willing to commit in the offseason. Brian, he looked tired. He looked old. He didn't move well. If you were in that room in Pittsburgh and you fought him for years, how do you broach that conversation with a star with a lot of power, and when you look at film, we may not have a guy that can get us to the next level?
Yeah, that's not a conversation you want. You don't have the conversation. You just have to make the decision. Either you're coming back or you're not. Because if you ask the player is always going to think they can go a little bit longer. And Ben can go, wait a minute, I had 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. The thing that was going on in the last quarter of the season wasn't all me, which is legitimate to a degree. The fact that Pittsburgh can't run the ball still fathoms me with that offensive line. Connor's a solid. So I don't know what's going on that way. But Ben can certainly play. The next question has to be asked. Okay, we've decided he can't do it. We're going to move on. Now what? You got to have you got to have the answer to the next question. There's going to be a few interesting options, maybe in free agency. You're not really in a position draft-wise unless you want to spend a whole lot to move up. There's a lot of open ends to this conversation in terms of, because like I said, there's 2 parts to it. Can he still play? And if he can't, what's our best option?
Yeah, that's interesting stuff. So we have 7 different job openings right now. And this morning I went out and I kind of speculated. I don't have any inside information.